Are you wanting to get into the ham radio hobby but not quite sure where to get started? Wanting to get access to the study material but not really sure where to go to get that? And not really sure what to do to get set up for a licensed exam? Well, I had those same issues too. Back in 2016, 2017, whenever I first started talking about getting into the ham radio hobby, I didn't know I had a licensed ham radio operator, so I didn't have anybody to talk to help direct me along my way or point me in the right direction, and that's the reason I'm putting this video together. If you found us today in this video, I hope that I can help you get started on your ham radio journey. My name is Joshua, and this is the KI5SIJ All Things Ham Radio, Batteries, and More YouTube channel. And in this particular video, we're going to go through some of the key information that should help you get started on your ham radio journey. I put a little presentation together to help keep me on task to make sure I cover all the topics that I want to cover so that you can be successful getting started with your technician license prep and becoming a licensed ham radio operator. The name of this video is going to be Ham Radio, How to Get Started. Not quite sure where to go to get the information or how to go about it? This is the right video. A little bit of background about me. I've been a licensed ham radio operator since October of 2021. I'm a proud member of the Crossroads Ham Radio Club out of Ganado, Texas. Our website is crhrc.org. That's the initials of the club there. The purpose of this video, as I previously mentioned, is to help anyone who is looking to join the ham radio hobby. Information found in this video will provide you a path forward on how to get your technician license. That is the first license that is available in the ham radio license world, so to speak. We'll also include information regarding study materials, how to take practice exams, and where to go to find local testing centers near you. Please feel free to reach out to me. My personal email address is on the screen, and I'll do my best to help you out. Here's a little bit more about my personal experience. Back in 2016 and 2017 timeframe, I had started having conversations with my family and friends regarding getting into the ham radio hobby. The problem was I had no idea where to start. Talking with them, we all realized that we didn't even know anybody that was a ham radio operator at that time. So we didn't have anybody that we could lean on and question regarding how to get started into the hobby. Needing a clear path forward, all I really knew to do was just to try to do a bunch of research and gather information to help point me in the right direction, but not knowing the right terms to search for and getting frustrated, I pretty much just gave up before I ever got started. Fast forward a few more years into the year of 2021. February of 2021 was the year we had that great Texas power grid failure on our coldest day of the year, and that was kind of the final straw for me. It was the very last thing that kind of pushed me into pursuing getting my ham radio license. And while I know it wasn't a major event for some folks, not having power and communications for 3 days kind of brought light that getting into the ham radio hobby would provide me an alternate means of communications, and that was kind of one of the main factors of me pursuing ham radio. Not really knowing where to get started or what to do after several years of talking about it and never getting engaged, I finally did what most folks do. I spent countless hours of searching on Google and YouTube, and well, even buried my face in some online books. And for those of you that hate reading, well, I'm one of those too. I cannot stand to read. I'd much rather watch a video. But after several weeks of researching, I came across several online resources which proved to be valuable and were instrumental in helping me get started in my journey into ham radio. I'm hoping that in this video I can share with you some of those same resources that I found and help point you in a right direction and a forward path to pursuing the ham radio hobby and preparing for your technician license exam. Before we get too far into this presentation, I just want to go over a few basic items. Anybody can listen to the ham radio frequencies. Anybody can listen to any of the frequencies that are out there. All it takes is using a portable, mobile, or console-based radio. A lot of people that I know, before they ever became a licensed ham radio operator, they bought ham radio equipment and used it to listen in on the local repeaters and even on the HF frequencies. Something that's becoming a little bit more common today is what we call the software-defined radios, also known as SDRs. A lot of them can be picked up for fairly cheap on Amazon. I'll put a link to it in my description of this video below. They can be used for multiple different purposes. They can come in many forms, shapes, form factors, but most common ones are USB dongles that can plug into your computer and be used with software. They also have newer technology which allows those SDRs to be set up through websites and accessible online through web-based SDR sites. You can go to Google and do a basic Google search for web SDRs and you can find those. To transmit on ham radio frequencies, though, you must have a valid and active ham radio license. The authoritative location that maintains all of the license information is the FCC database. You can look up your own call sign in the FCC database and look at the status of your license as well as verify all your information. You can do that for any other licensed ham radio operator as well. The FCC database is a great resource to validate license calls as well as help verify when you receive your own call. There are 3 different tiers of ham radio license. There's the technician, the general, and the amateur extra, which is also referred to as the extra. Each license tier listed above grants you different levels of access to different bands and different frequencies. For the purpose of this video, we're going to strictly focus on the technician license only. Technician license, the most popular uses. All right, for your technician license, technician class license, what are the most common things you're going to be using it for? Well, that includes talking on the VHF and UHF repeaters, which will generally be local to where you're at. Talk FM simplex on both VHF and UHF, that's radio to radio, doesn't include any repeaters. Talk sideband simplex on VHF, that's radio to radio on the VHF, but on sideband. Talk sideband simplex on 10 meters, and there's a specific range on 10 meters that's available to you as a technician license holder. That's 28.300 to 28.500. And then you'll be able to talk on CW on portions of the 2 meter, 6 meter, 15 meter, 40 meter, and 80 meter bands. Here is the official U.S. Amateur Radio Band Plan. This is what we call the band plan. It shows you all the different frequencies that are available for amateur radio operators, but only certain ones are given to certain classification license. So I have circled everything in red that is available for a technician license operator. This particular graphic is available on the ARRL website, and I'll provide a link to it in the description of the video. This shows you all of the available frequencies for the bands used in amateur radio. The technician license grants you access to the following bands and frequencies. Now, I'm not going to go through each one of these, but I'll leave it on the screen here for a minute. So if you want to take a snapshot, you can. But the 2 that I really want to point out are the 2 most common for repeater access, and that is the 70 centimeters, which we generally refer to as the UHF band, and the 2 meter, which is what we generally refer to as the VHF band. Both of those are in green on this slide here, and both of those are the more commonly used frequency spaces for the technician license operators. I know, at least for me, that's the case. When you get your technician license, you also get some privileges on the 10 meter band. We also refer to the 10 meter band as the magic band because when it opens up, you can talk all over on that band. And that gets really good coverage over the world there, depending on when propagation's working in your favor and whatnot. But it's really a cool band to be on. But with your technician license, you do get some sideband voice only permissions or access on a segment of 10 meters on the lower side of 10 meters. And you also get Ridian data access on the lower 10 meters as well. All that's documented on this view here. If you want to take a screenshot or come back to the video and study it more, you can. Now I'm going to proceed to talking about study material. The last couple slides kind of explain what you would use your technician license for. And to be honest with you, as far as I'm concerned, the biggest use I use with my technician license is the local VHF, UHF repeaters and some sideband. I never really did get into 10 meters too much with my technician license. However, I did once I got my general license, but we'll talk about that later. The technician license study material. There are multiple sources of study material out there for the ham radio technician class license. What I wanted to do is provide you with a couple of the resources that were key for me to get started in my journey into ham radio. I'll start off with the National Association for Amateur Radio. That website is ARRL.org. This is a great website to reference throughout the ham radio hobby. They have all kinds of information out there. They're a great source of leading information for the hobby. It also has information regarding our frequency band charts like the one I showed you a minute ago. They also have detailed listing of what each part of each band is used for, specific frequencies used for different purposes and stuff like that. It's a great website. It really is detailed on what's to be used for what and that kind of thing. They also have a couple of good pages dedicated to licensing, education, and training, which I've made reference here. All of these links will be available in the description of the video below. That ARRL is the very first site I would recommend you going and checking out. The second site is Ham Study. Now, I started off with Ham Study originally, but I am the kind of person that likes to learn the content behind a test. Certain people, they test well whenever they just learn the questions and the answers, and then other people test well when they learn the material that goes with the questions and the answers. For me, I personally test better actually learning the content and learning the material that the questions cover. That's why Ham Study did not work out very well for me, because it looks like it only goes over the questions and the answers and really doesn't deep dive into like a course of explaining why certain questions have certain answers and whatnot. So Ham Study is a good source, though. If you like just studying the questions and the answer, I would point you in the direction of hamstudy.org. That would be a great place for you to go and study. However, if you like to learn the content and go through course type material and understand what you're studying and why it's relevant to your technician level license, I would recommend going to the hamradioprep.com. Now, I'll say this, it is a $35 course to go through hamradioprep.com, but me personally, I tried several different sites studying, and this is the site that I found worked best for me. The $35 that I paid was actually very well worth it, because I was successful taking my license the very first time and only missed one on my test, I believe. Something else I want to point out is that on hamradioprep.com, not only does it go through the course material, but it also gives you a practice exam at the end of the course there. And that practice exam, you can actually go through the practice exam multiple times, and it will tell you how many questions out of the pool you have answered. I think whenever I took it, there was around, don't hold me to this, but I think there was around 380 questions in the technician pool whenever I took my test. I know things have changed since then. Maybe I do or do not have that number right. I'm not really sure, but it seems like the number was around 380 questions. Going through the Ham Radio Prep practice exam there, it allowed me to actually cycle through all the questions in the question pool, which is really, really good. More about study material. The ARRL Technician License Complete Study Guide book is a great reference, highly, highly recommended from several sources. And ARRL does help put some of the study material together for the license. So, Benz, they are part of that process. I most definitely would recommend this book. I'll put a link to all these links you see on the screen in the description below. Part of what helped me too is watching videos and watching somebody go through the material and explain the material. That was also key for me. So not only did I go through the course material through Ham Prep, but I also watched a couple of the videos I found on YouTube. And what I've done here is I made reference to a couple of the ones that I've been following for a while. They just released the latest study material through their YouTube channels, and so I made links to those here as well. The one I followed the most was Ham Radio 2.0. He had referenced the material for another club, if I'm not mistaken, at the time whenever I was studying, but those videos have been outdated due to the course material being updated, I believe, earlier this year. And so they just recently went through and provided new study material, new course material. And the Ham Radio 2.0 guy, Jason, he just put together this video with some other folks, and it's called the One-Day Technician Class. It's about 7 hours long, if I remember right, but it covers all the information you need to know for the technician class. They break it down, explain it. It's a great course. Then there's the Technician Course 2022 through 2026 by Dave Kassler, and then the Ham Radio Technician License by Ham Radio Crash Course. All three of them would be great sources for YouTube video content on going over the material for the exam. Practice test. I want to talk specifically about practice test. As I previously mentioned on a couple slides back, Ham Study and Ham Radio Prep both give you the option to do practice test. However, there is a really cool website called QRZ.com. This website you'll end up using in your ham radio hobby a whole lot because they offer some logging capabilities. But QRZ.com has a great system for doing practice exams. Not only does it keep track how many of the questions in the question pool you've completed correctly, it also tells you how many questions in the question pool you have actually answered. And what it will do is it will continue to give you the ones that you failed to answer correctly, and it will keep track of them. What I did is I went through all the questions on there until I got them all correct. And it actually shows you that you got X amount of X amount correct. And you just keep going through it until you've actually got them all correct. It will keep giving you the ones that you get wrong over and give you multiple chances to re-answer them as you go through each practice exam. Now, this particular way I did it, that was my very last set of practice exams I did a couple days before I took my test. And on QRZ, I went through those practice exams, and it took me a couple of days to go through all those questions. It took me a while because I had to go through multiple tests, and the way they have it laid out, they give you 35 questions in each test, which is how your test will be when you take your official exam. And so it gives you the questions 35 at a time. You go through and answer the 35, it grades you, and then you can go back on and test again. You just keep doing it over and over. Very helpful so that you can see all the questions in the question pool, and it kind of shows you which ones you keep getting wrong because you keep getting asked those same questions over and over. Now let's move forward to the actual testing. Each license tier has its own question pool, as I kind of mentioned a minute ago. The key thing to note here is that the material gets updated every 4 years. As far as the technician test is concerned, they just updated that last year, July 1st of 2022, and the study material for the technician exam will be good through 2026. So if you're interested in getting your ham radio license, you can go and study the 2022 through the 2026 technician license study material, and you'll be able to go and test for that. This is a link to the official question pool for each tier of the license there. So if you want to look at all the questions and the answers, it actually gives you a letter for the answer right beside the number of the question. You can actually study the questions and the answer by actually downloading the official question pool as well. More about testing. There are more options available, which became available recently during COVID. They introduced the online testing session. So now you can test in person at a testing location, or you can test online. I would recommend that you go to the ARRL Find an Amateur Radio License Exam Session page. When you go to that page, you can type in your zip code and find a local exam location, or you can register to take an online exam. You do need an FRN number from the FCC. All right, so you'll need that prior to the day of your exam. You'll need to make sure you have it before the day of your exam. If you do not have an FRN number, you cannot take the exam. The FRN number is assigned by the FCC CORS website. To get an FRN number, you go to the FCC CORS website and register to receive an FRN number. The FRN number is actually an FCC registration number. There's a link here which I'll put in the description of the video below. You can go to the FCC CORS user account and registration page and register for your FRN number. If you need assistance with the process, there is a link here which I will include below, which has some videos that walks you through the process on the FCC website. I'd wrapped up the presentation and thought, you know what, it'd probably be good to add this information in here too, so I added it. What to expect on test day? Well, first of all, you need to know what you need to bring with you to the exam if you're doing an in-person exam or even an online exam. I think it's required for an online exam as well. What to bring with you for your exam session? Well, I put a link to that on the ARRL page. They go in depth about the different things that you need to bring, but I'll summarize it for you. You'll need to make sure you have your FRN number with you. Have it jotted down, email it to yourself, text it to yourself, write it down on a piece of paper. You will need that FRN number to be able to take your test. You'll need to bring and provide at least one legal photo ID, a driver's license, government-approved passport, a student photo ID, state photo ID, etc. Also, remember to bring your check, money order, or cash payment to pay for the exam session fee. Generally, it's about $15 at most locations. Once you pass your technician license, this is what's going to happen. The VEC will submit your paperwork to the FCC. The FCC will process your paperwork and will generally send you an email requesting that you pay the $35 application fee. This is also a part that recently changed. So this $35, I think it's $35 application fee. They'll send you an email. For me, whenever we went through it with my two boys, it was about 2 days after they submitted the paperwork. Generally 1 to 2 business days after the paperwork's filed. Be looking in your email for an email from the FCC regarding the application fee. You'll need to go and make the application fee payment, which is also done through the FCC CORS website, I believe. And that process is a little bit confusing too, but if you need assistance, feel free to reach out and I can help with that. Once you make the $35 application fee, you should generally receive your call sign within 1 to 3 business days. That's been my experience. What I did to know when my call sign was given is I actually kept going to the FCC database daily, sometimes multiple times a day because I was super excited and impatient. Go to the FCC database and kept looking up my FRN number. Once the FCC assigns you your call sign, you'll be able to see it in the FCC database. Once you see your call sign, looking it up by the FRN number, that is, once you see your call sign in the FCC database, you are officially a licensed ham radio operator and you can start transmitting on the technician portion of the amateur radio bands. Just remember that you can only transmit on the portions of the bands that you are licensed for, and you are only licensed to do so once your call sign is visible in the FCC database and marked active. At this point, I want to welcome you to the ham radio hobby. Hopefully, if you got to this point, you have passed your ham radio technician license, you have received your call sign, and, well, you still have more work to do, though. Go ahead and start buying them radios and antennas and other ham radio equipment. Get on the radio and start making some contacts. And I'll go ahead and put a plug in for this too. Go ahead and start studying for your general tier license and continue learning more about the hobby. There's more to discover with the general tier classification license there. You can open up a lot more capabilities as well to talk around the world on the general license as well. I want to recommend that you join a local ham radio club in your area. This is a very, very, very highly recommended thing. I was against it at first because I was only getting into ham radio for emergency communications, but I can tell you that getting into a local club in your area will help you in many ways. It'll provide you a means to meet other people with similar interests regarding the ham radio and the hobby. All right, it'll get you additional resources of information. You can find help and assistance within the club regarding different things that you may be working on. It's also a great place to discuss some of your challenges, your projects, and even request help on some of your projects and much more. You will find strength and knowledge and experience inside of a ham radio club. I highly recommend that you join a club as soon as you get your license and become a part of a local club. It will help you grow in the hobby, and it will give you a resource that you can tap into to use as you start your ham radio journey. I want to say thank you for watching my video. If you like this video, go ahead and please give me that thumbs up. It helps the YouTube algorithms. And go ahead and subscribe to the channel as we continue to release content regarding the ham radio hobby, battery building, technology, proof of concepts, DIY builds, and more. You'll be able to follow along as we post those videos. If you want to receive them notifications for new content, be sure to click the bell. Thank you for watching our video. Hope that you find it useful. And hopefully you become a licensed ham radio operator and join us in the hobby. Thank you for watching from KI5SIJ, all things ham radio, battery, and more. Until next time, 73.